Guys, it's time for Annabelle's new favorite segment called Guess How Many Teams That She Can Predict and Will Probably Fail at. I'm just kidding. No, we're going to predict the NFL games for week 6. I can't believe that we are in the 6th week of the season already. It is flying by, and it's kind of going by fast. We are technically we are 5 weeks under. We are approaching the 6th week. Some of these teams have had their bye weeks already. Other teams will be on their bye week this week. And then we'll see a few more bye weeks for other teams as the weeks kind of progress. But this is week 6. Once we get to week 9, which is in a little less than a month, we are already halfway through the season already, which is crazy. But there's still a lot of football to be played. There's still a lot of games to be played. But let's see the lineup for week 6, and I'll tell you who I think is going to win and who is going to lose, which I can already feel like I'm going to do so bad at, which is why I'm calling this how many games can Annabelle get right and how many games is Annabelle going to fail at, which is definitely going to be the latter. So we can come back after Monday Night Football of next week, which I believe is the Jets and the Bills. So we can come back to this video on Tuesday because I'm recording this right now on the Thursday. So I'm kind of cheating because I know that there's Thursday night football being played tonight, but we can come back to this video on Tuesday and we'll see how Annabelle does. And if I get one game right, I'll count that as a win. Plus, I will, after this little segment ends, I will show you the early NFL predictions that I made about a month ago on September 7th, and we'll see if I'm on par for how accurate my predictions were about a month ago. So let's get started. The first matchup is the 49ers and the Seahawks. Now, I am cheating. It is 8:45 p.m. right now as of recording this. I know that the 49ers are up 16-3 right now, but I will have you know that before I even looked at the score, before I realized, I didn't know that the 49ers were playing the Seahawks. They talked a lot about it on Sunday when the 49ers lost to the Cardinals and lost to another of their, divisional opponents. I knew that. And it's why that I actually, believe it or not, did go with the Seattle Seahawks beating the 49ers. I went with that for the reason of the Seattle Seahawks are playing at home. The 49ers are playing away. Now, granted, it seems like the Niners play better on the road compared to at home, but the 49ers are also 2-3. The Seattle Seahawks are 3-2. I had to go with the Seahawks, but right now that's not looking like a good prediction for me. But I did pick the Seahawks. I didn't like how the 49ers blew a fourth quarter lead yet again to the Cardinals. The 49ers should have won that game. It surprises me how much they let that lead dwindle down and how much they let that win or how much they let their momentum kind of sink towards the end. I had full confidence that they would beat the Cardinals, but I also had full confidence that they were going to beat the Minnesota Vikings at the start towards the beginning part of the season. I know that the 49ers beat the Patriots and I forgot which other team that they beat, which is really sad to think about. But I did choose the Seahawks. The Seahawks just had the better overall record. And again, I don't know how much of the loss to the Cardinals were going to affect the 49ers performance. They did have kind of a short week to prepare, but who knows? The Seahawks could come back or the 49ers could take this in the second half. Who knows? But I will let you know that I did originally go with the Seattle Seahawks winning, and I'm off to a bad start. Next game, Jaguars and Bears. This is the London game, I believe. It's at 8:30 on Sunday. The Jaguars just won their first game last week against the Colts. They looked terrible. I can say that for a couple other teams as well, if they're playing this week, which I think one other team is who might be even worse than the Jacksonville Jaguars. But I'm kind of mid about the Chicago Bears. I did think that they were going to be a little bit better than what I have seen in the 5 weeks that they've played, but knowing that the Jaguars just barely squeezed out a win against the Indianapolis Colts, I believe that Anthony Richardson did get injured or didn't have like the best performance last week, but I am going with the Chicago Bears. I think Caleb Williams is doing okay for a rookie. There's one other rookie quarterback drafted in the 2024 class that is outperforming him right now. But I, at this point on, I would trust Caleb Williams more than I would trust Trevor Lawrence. And that's just how it goes. So I am going with the Bears being the Jaguars. Next game, Buccaneers and Saints. The Saints did lose to the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football. I understand that. I know that the Chiefs are a very, very good team, but it also felt like the Saints had an opportunity to win that game. There was some conservative offensive play calling for the Saints, and watching the Saints, it just felt like they were giving Kansas City opportunities to go and score on the offensive side for them. It looked like the defense was just giving up and just letting these plays happen. And I will let you know that when you are playing an offensively structured team like the Kansas City Chiefs, meaning they have a very good quarterback who excels in pretty much every single category. They have receivers, they have tight ends who can make plays. And Patrick Mahomes knows how to work his offense to the point of near perfection. They are not perfect. I'm not saying that they're perfect. I said to near perfection. But when you have a quarterback on that elite of a level, the opposing defenses need to figure out what the Chiefs' weaknesses are and use that to their advantage. And it just felt like the Saints didn't do that, hence them losing. The Buccaneers also with Baker Mayfield, they've been on a little bit of an up and down so far too. I know that the Bucs have won some. I also know that they have lost some that it felt like they should have won. Just for a couple of other teams too. I think Bucs and Saints will be a great game. I think it's going to be a closer game than what we think, but going with the home field advantage, I am going to choose the Saints over the Buccaneers because the Saints were right there with the Chiefs and they just let that slip away. But I don't know. I feel like it's going to be very close and it could be a 50-50 shot, but I am going with the New Orleans Saints. Next game, Commanders versus Ravens. Jayden Daniels is by far right now the most obvious candidate for Rookie of the Year. How he is playing, how he is leading his team to some wins. The Commanders only have one loss. They have won 4 out of their 5 games. That is impressive considering that the division they are in, the NFC East, a lot of people thought that the Eagles would be the best team in that conference. Other people thought that the Dallas Cowboys would be the best team in that conference. Who would have thought that the Commanders would be the number one team in their conference right now? The only other team would be the Giants, and we all know how the Giants are. But the Ravens, after losing their first 2 games, have been on a 3-game winning streak. They beat the Dallas Cowboys. They almost lost, which I feel like we should talk about that too. The Commanders' offense absolutely demolished the Dallas defense in week 3. They could just run the ball, and Dallas did. The defense for the Cowboys did not know how to stop the run until the fourth quarter, where it seemed like the Dallas defense all of a sudden wanted to play a game. Then they did sort of manage to stop the run. The Cowboys did come back towards the end, and the Ravens almost blew another 4-quarter lead, but they managed to win by 3 points. That is some cause for concern when a team is up and then they kind of give up their lead only to lose in the end. We saw that already with the 49ers against the Cardinals. We saw that in their 10-point lead against the Vikings, I believe, that they ended up losing as well. And I forgot which other team. Oh, the Rams. They also blew a fourth quarter lead to the Rams as well that they should have won too. So I think the Commanders Ravens will be another great game. It's going to be Jayden Daniels against Lamar Jackson. The Commanders are on a roll, but seeing how the Ravens just demolished the Dallas defense with the run game, seeing how they absolutely breezed by the Buffalo Bills, who were undefeated up until losing to the Ravens, I'm going with the Ravens on this one. And I clicked something. Oh yeah, technically the Commanders have a better record overall. They're 4-1. The Ravens are 3-2, but I like the Ravens' momentum and where they are right now. Cardinals and Packers. This game could be an interesting one. The Cardinals just beat the 49ers by 1 point, which I already talked about how they blew a lead that the Cardinals should have lost to the 49ers, but they won. The Packers have lost to the Eagles by 4 or 5 points. They've lost one other game, I believe. Yeah, they're 3-2. The Cardinals are 2-3. I'm going to go with the Green Bay Packers. I know that the Cardinals beat a good 49ers team, but that was last week. I don't know if they can get away with turning the ball over like they did against the 49ers a few times compared to the Packers defense. I know the Packers lost. I believe that the Packers lost last week. They'll use this week to get back together and get their flow back on. I'm just going with the Packers because I like what I see from their offense and their defense as a whole unit compared to the Cardinals unit. Colts and Titans. The Colts lost last week to one of the worst teams in the NFL, the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars got their first win against the Colts. Anthony Richardson didn't look like the best player on the field, but with Will Levis and the Titans, you can make the same argument too. The Titans are 1-3 overall. The Colts are 2-3. I don't know if it's going to be a very high scoring game. I don't know how much offense each team is going to produce. Ultimately, it's going to come down to which team can make the stops on defense necessary and which teams can go down and score when it matters most. Right now, I think that team is going to be the Indianapolis Colts. Like I said, Anthony Richardson was not the best player on the field last week, but Will Levis hasn't looked like the best player on the Tennessee Titans. I'm just going with the Colts because I feel like their defense can hold up better against the Titans defense, if that makes sense. Next game, Texans and Patriots. The Texans are 4-1. The Patriots are 1-4. I'm going with the Houston Texans because CJ Stroud is just a better quarterback than Jacoby Brissett. Although Jacoby Brissett is being benched for Drake May. So we're going to see Drake May's first full game as a Patriot. But when it comes to that, when you're putting a rookie in for his very first start, there has been some instances, however, of rookies coming in and just blowing up the scene, taking the lead by storm in their first career start. We could see that with Drake May, but I just haven't been impressed with the Patriots on the offense and the defensive side. They've only won one game. I like what I'm seeing from the Houston Texans. They are proving that last season wasn't a fluke, and they are right on track to going to potentially another playoff in the postseason. I'm picking the Texans, and I'm picking them by a good 10 to 13 points. Browns and Eagles. This game is another interesting game, and this game might be the one game that I'm most interested to see. The Browns are 1-4. I don't think anyone could have predicted the Browns being 1-4. Deshaun Watson has looked awful. I'm gonna say it straight up. Deshaun Watson has looked awful. The Browns defense has looked awful. The Browns overall have just not looked like the team that we saw last year. I know that there was some high stakes for Deshaun Watson. I know people were wanting him to come out and prove that he was still the good quarterback that we saw in 2018, 2019, but he is not that anymore. He looks complete. I think the Browns are just completely wasting him. I haven't seen anything that just makes me go, huh, he's a good quarterback. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that from the Browns defense. Their first game against the Cowboys defense looked like leads above the Browns defense, which is a complete 180 from last season when the Browns had one of the best defenses in the league. I haven't been impressed by them. That saying, I have not been impressed by the Philadelphia Eagles either. I know the Eagles started off last season 10-1. I know that they lost their last 6 of the 7 games last season, including the postseason, where they only scored 9 points against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I knew that, but somehow I still had hope that the Eagles could prove that they were still a good team. They are 2-2. They are at exactly 500. They are coming off of a bye week from last week. So this will be the first game that they have played in 2 weeks. I honestly don't know at this point who's going to win because the Eagles' offense has flaws. Jalen Hurts is turning the ball over more than I've seen him do this season. The Eagles' defense still has some flaws. The Browns team has flaws overall. This game could honestly come down to which quarterback turns the ball over the least. And right now, I wouldn't be shocked if Jalen Hurts fumbled or turned the ball over against the Browns defense. I wouldn't be shocked if Deshaun Watson plays the worst game of his career. None of those things would shock me. And it's kind of sad to say. I watched a whole debate recently about which team has been the bigger letdown this season, the Eagles or the Cowboys in the NFC East. And it was kind of shocking to see that a lot of people are picking the Dallas Cowboys. I know the Cowboys lost to the Ravens, but only by 3, but should have been probably by 14 or 17. I know that the Cowboys lost by quite a lot of points to the New Orleans Saints. I forgot just how many, but I want to say it was in the 20s by 20 points. Let's also not forget that the Eagles lost to the Falcons. Granted, if Saquon Barkley had caught a third down catch, that would have propelled the Eagles to go ahead and score and ended up being the Falcons. But the Eagles still lost to the Falcons. The Eagles were down 20-0 at one point to the Buccaneers. They still lost. They didn't lose by 20 points, but they still lost to the Bucs. I'd say that the Eagles and Bucs are worse than the Ravens and the Saints right now. Plus, the Cowboys went on the road and got a win at the Pittsburgh Steelers, which apparently is really hard to do nowadays. So, my bigger letdown right now is the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't know how you can say the Cowboys. We knew that the Cowboys weren't going to be that good compared to last season. We know that the Cowboys offense had some flaws. We know that the Dallas defense was flawed. They couldn't stop the run last year. I don't know why people thought that they could stop the run this year, especially with the new defensive coordinator in Mike Zimmer. But if I had to pick a team to win, I am going with the Eagles. I don't know. Jalen Hurts is going to have to play a near perfect game because if I had faith in the Browns offense or the defense, I am going with their defense because their offense just looks horrendous right now. And if the Eagles somehow lose to the Cleveland Browns, I don't know what that says about the Eagles. I think that their season is done for, and their head coach should absolutely be on the hot seat if that happens. So I'm going with the Eagles. Next game, Chargers Broncos. The Chargers are 2-2, and the Broncos are 3-2. The Broncos have surprised me this season, I will not lie. I know they were kind of one of the worser. I shouldn't say worser. I knew that they weren't a very good team last year, but they're 3-2. They're better than the Eagles, and they're better than the 49ers right now. Who would have thought that would happen? The Chargers are 2-2. The Broncos have won 2 straight games, I believe. I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos on this one. Bo Nix is really standing out as a rookie. I don't think he's standing out on that level as Jayden Daniels is right now. Bo Nix might be on the same level as Caleb Williams. I don't know if we can put those two in the same box, but I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos. Here we go. Steelers, Raiders. Steelers 3-2. The Raiders are 2-3. The Steelers lost to the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football, which I stayed up to watch the entire game for, only for it to be delayed by an hour and however many minutes. That game didn't get done till 12:30 in the morning on Monday morning. And I did stay up to watch that whole game, not because I'm a Cowboys fan, not because I'm a Steelers fan, but because I wanted to have something to talk to my brother, who is a Dallas Cowboys fan, about. So I did watch that entire game. I watched how the Dallas Cowboys offense got off to a slow start. I watched how they made it to the red zone 4 times and couldn't get a single touchdown out of it. I saw how the Cowboys quarterback threw 2 interceptions and lost a fumble, but yet the Cowboys still came out with a win. I thought for sure that the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to pull away at the end of the fourth quarter. Justin Fields wasn't perfect either, but he did look like the better quarterback for 3.5 quarters until the game winning drive when it mattered most, and that came in clutch. The Steelers do have a road game against the Raiders. I don't know much about the Raiders. I can't speak to that. I do know that they beat the Ravens, but I think that the Steelers use the loss to the Cowboys to come back with a vengeance to prove that they are still one of the better teams in their conference. I'm going with the Steelers by a touchdown. Next game, Falcons and Panthers. I'm going with the Atlanta Falcons, no questions asked. My favorite team is the Carolina Panthers, and guess what? They still suck. It sounds I don't know why I'm laughing because it's really not funny, but it's true. They benched Bryce Young, which, if we could talk about that for a minute, Bryce Young wasn't given the opportunity to develop by that organization. They just kind of threw him into the system and said, good luck. I don't know how you can expect any rookie to thrive in that environment. He Bryce was the number one overall pick in last year's draft. He did not look like the number one pick on the field. He didn't even look like a first round draft pick. Let's be honest. I don't even think he looked like a second or a third round pick. He looked like a fifth or sixth round pick, but he just wasn't given the opportunity to grow, develop, sit back and watch a veteran quarterback lead a team and then come in. He wasn't put in the best environment where he could grow, where he could develop his skills, develop his arm strength, and just sit and watch and learn. That's kind of what happened to Sam Darnold last year. He was the backup quarterback to Brock Purdy on the 49ers. Obviously, the Minnesota Vikings got him in free agency, offseason, whatever. And now look at the Vikings. They are the best team in the NFC. And I think that is because Sam Darnold could sit back, watch from veteran players. He is a veteran player himself, I believe. He's been in the league for quite some time. Sam Darnold has jumped from different teams, but right now on the Vikings, he looks like a completely different player, and he looks like a great player. He is absolutely one of the top candidates right now to win MVP, behind, I'm assuming, Lamar and Patrick. But it's because Sam Darnold could sit and watch and learn from coaches who have experience, who have expertise, the 49ers organization is better than the Panthers organization. I will give it that. But I think Bryce now sitting on the bench and watching and learning from Andy Dalton, who again is a skilled and veteran player, I think that's going to do wonders for him in the future. But I do think that we need to give Bryce Young a chance if he gets one again. He does have the potential to be a good NFL quarterback. He might not meet the certain, height and weight standards that's set for most quarterbacks nowadays, but he does have the potential to be very good. If he had just gotten that opportunity earlier on to sit back and watch and grow, we would be having a much different conversation about how we view him as a quarterback. But I am going with the Falcons just because the Panthers still look very bad. And that is 3:25 on Sunday. The other game on Sunday at 3:25 is the Lions and the Cowboys. I don't know who watched the game last year towards at the end of December, beginning of I think yeah, it was the end of December. It was either the 27th or the 28th where we had the whole controversy and the drama regarding the 2-point conversion at the end, which the Lions failed to score on 3 separate times. The first time, obviously, the Lions player caught it. The referees talked it over. They said he wasn't an eligible receiver to catch the ball, therefore taking that 2-point conversion away. So the Lions tried again. Micah Parsons pretty much gifted them a closer opportunity to score by jumping offside, which I don't know why Micah did that. And then on the third try, Jared Goff's pass attempt fell incomplete. In my opinion, in my biased opinion, if you're gonna go for it on the third time, you might as well just get the extra point at that point because that makes it a tied game. The Lions did go down and score a touchdown. They were down by 1. They were going to go for the 2-point conversion to try and come away with a win, which still that doesn't really make sense. There was still time left on the clock. Let's be clear. There was about 10 or so seconds still left on that clock. So even if the Lions had gone for the extra point and the game is tied, the Cowboys still get an additional 10 seconds to try and go down the field to field goal range, which now looking back, I guess I see why the Lions went for the 2-point conversion to try and get a 1-point lead because Brandon Aubrey, the Cowboys kicker, has a very strong leg. We have seen him make a field goal from 60 plus yards. So maybe that's what they were trying to do by going for the 2-point conversion and giving them a 1-point lead. It leaves the Cowboys with 10 or so seconds to try and get a deep pass for field goal potential. Who knows? All I know is that I would have just taken the extra point at the end and then forced the Cowboys to go down and score. Your most likelihood chance is either the Cowboys choose to run the ball, which wouldn't surprise me under Mike McCarthy's play calling, or you get Dak Prescott to throw a deep pass and it ends up being picked off. Then it sends the game to overtime. But I do know the controversy and the drama surrounding that whole ordeal. I also know that we would not have had the 2-point nonsense if the referees or the officials had made the right call when it came to a holding penalty. They got caught Peyton Hendershot holding, so to speak, when it was really Aiden Hutchinson who was holding. So if they had made that correct call at the end, the Cowboys could have ran the clock out and the game would have been over. The Lions would not have had that extra opportunity to go and score the touchdown, hence all the 2-point stuff. But if you fans who've watched that game, both Lions fans and Cowboys fans know that drama. I know that drama because again, I watched it with my brother and I had to basically watch the ending of that game to let him know how it went because he couldn't do it. But Cowboys are coming off a win on the road against the Steelers. They have a home game now, which it seems like the Cowboys play better on the road than they do at home. The Lions have lost the last 5 straight games against the Cowboys. It could be a good game, folks. The Lions are 3-1. The Cowboys are 3-2. Each have 3 wins. The Lions already have their bye week. Cowboys have this week, and then I believe next week is when they get their bye week. But if I think this game comes down to coaching. And when it comes to coaching, I don't like that Dan Campbell made the decision to try for a 2-point conversion on 3 times on the same drive. But Mike McCarthy's play calling is a bit questionable. The Dallas defense still has some questions to answer. The offense doesn't look like the offense that we've seen in past years. I'm sorry, but and Dak coming off of a 3 turnover game against the Steelers, you can't turn the ball over against the Lions. You can't. I'm going with, it pains me to say this, I'm going with the Detroit Lions. And unfortunately, I think it's going to be a 15 to 20 point win for them if the Cowboys do turn the ball over. So let's not turn the ball over, Cowboys. Let's try to play a clean and great game. Sunday Night Football is the Bengals and the Giants. The Bengals have 1 win. Joe Burrow has not looked like the quarterback that I have seen him be in the past 4-5 years that he's been in the league. Bengals have the same record as the Panthers. The New York Giants are 2-3. I it sounds I don't know if this is a controversial take, but the Bengals gained their first win against the Carolina Panthers pretty much solidifies the fact that the Bengals are still not a good team this season. I feel like any team can beat the Carolina Panthers at this point. Again, that might sound very bad to say, but I believe it to be true just from the past 5 weeks. That said, I am going with the Bengals over the Giants. I know that the Bengals have played some close games. The Bengals almost won last week, came up just a bit short. I don't know what the first 2 weeks that they were doing. I don't know what that was about, but I think that they can forget it. I think they can kind of try and the build up the praise that they were receiving last season. Joe Burrow still has stuff to work on. The whole team has stuff to work on. The Giants lost by 5 points to the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know what that says about either team. I'm just going with the Bengals because I still hold true to the fact that Joe Burrow is a better quarterback than Daniel Jones. So that's Sunday Night Football. Monday Night Football is Bills and Jets, which should be a very interesting game yet again. I know you all know about the firing of Robert Saleh on the Jets and yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to dive into that too much. We can take a closer look at that into a main episode. But right now, the Bills have lost 2 straight. They lost to the Ravens. I forgot who they lost to last week. Let's see if we can pull that up quickly. They lost to the Texans by 3. But when you have an interim head coach, usually they don't do very well. The Jets offense under Aaron Rodgers, it doesn't look good. They don't look like they are not playing together as a unit. The Jets defense has looked great. I think the Jets defensive coordinator, who is now the interim head coach, has done a wonderful job. But Nathaniel Hackett as the offensive coordinator for the Jets, just I don't know. He's not a good offensive coordinator, which you can agree to disagree on that. I just don't think he's a great offensive coordinator, and I'm sorry. But I am going with the Buffalo Bills winning on the road against the New York Jets. And that is it for that. Let's see. Here, hold on, guys. We're gonna check to see. Oh, look. Oh, dirty. The score is 23-17 right now. The Seahawks have scored 14 points in the third quarter, but the 49ers scored a touchdown. So the Seahawks are coming back. Let's see how the 49ers lead holds up. 49ers, please don't squander a 10-point lead again this season. I swear, if that actually happens and the 49ers lose to the Seahawks, I don't know what that says about the 49ers offense and not scoring in the red zone or not scoring just in general and settling for field goals. Or I don't know what that says about the 49ers defense and not closing out games. Either way, just don't lose. Don't blow a 10-point lead again. I don't know if I can handle that and the media's outlook on that as well. All right. We made our predictions for week 6. I feel like I've been talking way too long at this point and going probably too much in depth about my predictions. But we're going to make this super quick and finish out this segment with Annabelle's early NFL season predictions. You can find where I made these predictions on a main episode. I believe it was either episode 11 or episode 12. Episode 12, where I talked about early NFL predictions. And at the end, I gave my predictions for the season. I'm going to go over them briefly, and we'll see how much are true and how much are completely off. Right now, I said that the best team would be the Kansas City Chiefs, and that looks to be true right now because they're undefeated. They're 5-0. And, well, I guess they don't have a bye week because they have Monday night. I think this week is the Chiefs bye week now that I think about it, because Monday Night Football was still the end of week 5. So the Chiefs are at their bye week this week. The worst team I said was the Cardinals and the Panthers. One of those is still true. The Panthers are one of the worst teams in the NFL, but with one win, the Bengals have one win, the Jaguars have one win, the Patriots have one win. I still hold true to the fact that the Panthers will end up as the worst team in the NFL. Oh, and the Titans have one win as well. I think that's 5 teams with one win or so. But I'm going to go with either the Panthers or the Titans are going to end up as the worst team. The best offense, I said, was the Eagles. I know that that's not true because the Eagles' offense has been a little questionable. I think I'm going to give the best offense to the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings with Sam Darnold. He's throwing with accuracy. He's giving the ball to his running back, to his receivers to make plays. And the Vikings are the only team in the NFC right now to be undefeated, just like the Chiefs. I'm giving best offense to the Minnesota Vikings at this point and not the Eagles as I predicted. The best defense, I said, was the Browns. That is absolutely not true. The Browns' defense has looked terrible. I think the best defense, even though they lost on Sunday Night Football, the Steelers' defense looks pretty good. They know who they are as a unit, as a team. The offense has a little bit of stuff to work on, but defensively, I trust the Steelers' defense to go and make big plays in the moment. So I'm going to give best defense right now to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The best special teams, I said, would be the Dallas Cowboys. Brandon Aubrey still be doing Brandon Aubrey things. I know that he had a field goal blocked in the game against the Steelers, but he made another 60-yard field goal. He is very accurate from the deep range. I believe he's only missed one field goal from 50-plus yards. He has missed a few field goals inside 40 yards, but he's still a very good kicker. The Cowboys special team still looks to be one of the better ones in the NFC. I don't know a whole lot about the AFC and their special teams, but I would still give it to the Dallas Cowboys at this moment in time. My breakout team, I said would be the Washington Commanders, and that is a true fact, and you can look it up on episode 12 for Ace for Waves called Early NFL Predictions, where I did say that the Commanders would be a breakout team, and it looks to be true right now. They are 4-1. They are one of the better teams in the NFC. They're better than the Cowboys. They're better than the Eagles. They're better than the 49ers. They're better than the Seahawks. That's about the only NFC teams I can name right now. Oh, and they are better than the Detroit Lions, I believe by yeah, because they have one extra win because they haven't had their bye week yet. But it's tracking, guys. It's tracking. I think that the Commanders are going to be this year's breakout team. So we'll see if they can keep that momentum going. My struggle bus team, I said would be the Miami Dolphins. Now, I said it could be either the Dolphins or I did also mention the Eagles with their downfall last season. But with Tua getting hurt with his concussion, the Dolphins just haven't looked the same. I still think that the Dolphins could be a struggle bus team, but I could say that about the 49ers right now look like a struggle bus team at the moment, with them just not closing out and finishing games. The Eagles look like a struggle bus team, even though they are 500. They haven't looked the way Jalen Hurts hasn't looked like the quarterback he was at the start of last season compared to the start of this season. I'm not putting the Dallas Cowboys on the struggle bus team because they're 3-2. Statistically, they are better than the Philadelphia Eagles, and they beat the Steelers. They beat the Browns, even though now we know the Browns kind of stink, but you know, I'm I still think it's gonna be the Dolphins for me and the Philadelphia Eagles. I could also put the Bengals on the shorter bus team at this moment in time, as well as the Cleveland Browns. So there's 4 teams for you. The most approved, I said a bunch of teams. I was only going to choose one team, and I ended up saying 7 teams. I said the most approved were the Texans, the Packers, the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Ravens, the Bills, and surprisingly, the Dolphins. The Texans have lots to prove, proving that last season wasn't a fluke, which they are proving that they are still the same team as last year. That does track. I said the Packers have the most to prove, being a playoff team last year, beating the Cowboys by a good margin in the playoffs. I still think the Packers have stuff to work on, but they are proving that they are still good. The Eagles are proving to me that they have weaknesses that they haven't figured out yet. The Cowboys are proving to me that they still don't know how to stop the run. Their quarterback is proving that he needs to be better. He needs to be more cautious with the ball. The Ravens prove that use they can come off of a loss. Well, I guess come off of a loss. The Ravens are proving that a slow start doesn't mean anything necessarily bad. They've won 3 straight in a row. Derrick Henry is one of the best running backs in the league right now. Lamar Jackson is still proving that he has those MVP qualities in him. The Ravens are proving still that they are a good team in the AFC. They'll only continue to get better. I said the Bills have the most to prove in terms of winning in the postseason. I know that they have been statistically very good in the regular season. It's just using those regular season wins and transferring them to the postseason. So that's kind of where the Bills come into play here. I said the Dolphins have a lot to prove in terms of Tua being a good quarterback, not just in the AFC, but in the NFL in general. But we'll see if the Dolphins can kind of move forward without Tua. I don't know how much longer Tua is out, but the backup quarterback for the Dolphins just I think has those same qualities that we've seen from Tua, and the Dolphins are not finding ways to win without him. So there's that. Well, I will add to this list. I will add that right now it looks like the 49ers have to prove that they can close out games and they can win games. They look all over the place right now. They do not look like the reigning NFC champions. I think the Lions still have stuff to prove from last season into this season, which we're kind of seeing. But the Bears have stuff to prove with Caleb Williams being the number one overall pick, seeing if that they can get some more wins underneath their belt and continuing to grow and develop their rookie quarterback. I said it in the podcast episode, but every team has to prove something. You just can't go into a season with no expectations at all. I stand firm by that. The Panthers, even the Panthers have something to prove. They have to prove that they are not going to finish this season as the worst team in the NFL like they did last year. And then Annabelle's comment at the end of this, I said that the Panthers will still stink and the AFC has more talent than the NFC. So one of those is true. The Panthers still stink. But what I said about the AFC having more talent than the NFC, I think that the AFC teams are stat better with their roster. I think the AFC has better quarterbacks than the NFC does. Let's just think about this for a second. AFC quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, two-time MVP, Patrick Mahomes, three-time Super Bowl champion. They're going for a three-peat this year if they make it to the Super Bowl. Josh Allen, great quarterback. CJ Stroud, great quarterback. Tua, I say Tua is a decent quarterback, but he's still better than some of the other NFC quarterbacks. Joe Burrow, he's a good quarterback. We haven't seen it from him right now, but Joe Burrow has been to a Super Bowl. In fact, he's the only quarterback to defeat Patrick Mahomes as of recently to go on to make it to a Super Bowl. The Bengals are the last AFC team to have been in the Super Bowl. That's not the Kansas City Chiefs. That was 2021. No, I think it was 2021 or 2022. No, because the Chiefs won 2022. It was 2021 then. It was the Bengals and the Rams. The Rams ended up coming up with the win. But the Bengals are the most recent and an AFC team to have made it to a Super Bowl that's not named the Chiefs. And we can attribute that back to Joe Burrow. Aaron Rodgers on the Jets. I know Aaron Rodgers hasn't looked great this season, but he's still a good quarterback. He has still been to a Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl albeit with the Packers. But there's at least 7 good quarterbacks there right now. We could maybe throw in. I don't want to throw in. I want to throw like Bo Nix into the conversation because he's a rookie. Because that means we would also have to include Caleb Williams, who I believe the Bears are AFC team. I believe. Oh, AFC team, Russell Wilson, but he's backed up right now to Justin Fields. We'll just leave it at 7 good quarterbacks in the AFC. Now let's take a look how that stacks up with the NFC teams quickly. On the NFC side, you have Brock Purdy, who has made it to an NFC championship game twice. The 49ers lost to the Eagles in 2023, where Brock got hurt. They defeated the Lions in last year's game to advance to the Super Bowl, ultimately ending up losing to the reigning Super Bowl champion Chiefs. But there's Brock Purdy. We have Jalen Hurts. We have Dak Prescott. We have Jared Goff. We have Matthew Stafford on the NFC. We have Geno Smith. And then I guess we can say Jayden Daniels if we are going off of a rookie right now. So there's 7. Oh, and Jordan Love. Those quarterbacks don't really match up to the elite level like those AFC quarterbacks that we have talked about. In fact, the only quarterback on that list to have won a Super Bowl for the NFC is Matthew Stafford on the Los Angeles Rams. Matthew Stafford is not better than Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson right now. Jared Goff is not better than Lamar, Patrick, Josh, or even Joe Burrow. Yeah, Joe Burrow. Brock Purdy, even though he's a fantastic quarterback, even though he's a very mobile quarterback, he still lost to the Ravens last year. He still lost to the Chiefs. I don't know if I don't think the Chiefs, not the Chiefs, I don't think the 49ers played the Bills, so I can't go there. He did lose to Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Dak Prescott has a a terrible postseason record for being one of the more veteran quarterbacks into the league. Dak is not better than those 7 AFC quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts is not better than those 7 AFC quarterbacks. They aren't. That's not a knock to them. They're still very great quarterbacks. But when you take their win-loss percentages, when you look at their quarterback play and the level of efficiency that they are playing, I think I can only name 2 NFC quarterbacks who have been consistent, and who have led their teams with efficiency, and that is Matthew Stafford and that is Brock Purdy. AFC, I can go Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, and maybe Tua, but that's still a very, very, very long stretch. But that being said, that's going to conclude this segment of the podcast, show, whatever. I talked a lot longer than what I thought I was going to talk. I apologize. I don't know how long I've been talking for. It could very well be an hour at this point. I wasn't really keeping track, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. I apologize for it being a lot longer than what I anticipated, but you got to hear my week 6 NFL predictions. You got to hear me say some of my early NFL predictions. I'll give you a few new predictions, if you want to call it those, where we are right now this season. And we will do a mid-season check-in towards week 8, week 9, when we hit the halfway point. So look forward to that. And that's all I have for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.